That's how we're doing. Good afternoon, everybody. We just had a great meeting with the House Republican Conference. We're delighted to have been joined by the Vice President, JD Vance. You'll hear from him in just a moment. What we were here to address today, what you're all here to hear about, is we're moving forward with Reconciliation 3.0. This morning, after many months of deliberation and discussion and contemplation, the House Budget Committee, of course, is moving forward with the budget resolution that will get us to Reconciliation 3.0. Let me tell you a few of the details about it. Given the Democrats' absolute refusal to work with us on the nation's top priorities, and that includes election integrity and strengthening our nation's defense, we're moving forward with a narrow, streamlined package to deliver on some of America's top priorities. It is a sad situation, but this is where we are. Republicans have to do this on our own. So the budget resolution instructs 4 House committees to write Reconciliation 3.0, the bill. Those committees are the House Administration Committee, House Armed Services Committee, House Agriculture, and House Intelligence Committee. Each of them will have an important component part of that. The forthcoming reconciliation legislation sets out to accomplish 2 very important goals. 1, to secure America's elections. We're going to pass the Save America Act into law, as much of that as possible. The Save America Act ensures, as you know, that voters have proof of citizenship to register to vote, and they show a valid ID when they turn up to vote at the ballot box. These common sense policies are supported by 83% of the American people. It's almost a 9 out of 10 public opinion poll in most of the polls that you look at. The second objective is to protect and strengthen our homeland. How will we do that? We will provide supplemental funding for our troops with the administration's request to support national defense and our farmers. That's very important stuff. The Budget Committee is scheduled to vote this budget resolution out of committee tomorrow, and we will pass it through the House next week. We'll send it to the Senate, and then they will pass it before the August district work period. After the Senate passes the budget resolution, our 4 instructed House committees can go to work to write the reconciliation bill itself. We're looking forward to this process. We intend for this to be a lawmaking exercise, which means the House and the Senate both have to pass the bill, and of course the President signs it into law. This budget resolution, which kickstarts Reconciliation 3.0, is a process. It's our best shot at enacting our party's top priority legislation, the Save America Act. It is important to the American people. It is important to the future. And there is nothing in this bill that every Republican in Congress cannot proudly get behind. I would say that Republicans support election integrity, our troops, and, of course, our farmers, and this vehicle will demonstrate all of that once again. We're delighted, again, to have been joined by our Vice President, who had a lot to say to the Republicans. They were very encouraged. He got multiple standing ovations. It's a good day to be a Republican. Ladies and gentlemen, our Vice President, JD Vance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, guys, so first of all, the reason I wanted to come here today is just to give a message of unity to my fellow Republicans. We've accomplished a lot together over the last year and a half, but we've got to stick together and accomplish at least one very big thing for the American people, which is the President's priority, the White House's priority, the entire Trump administration's priority is to actually get the Save America Act passed. We have the proudest and in some ways the oldest democracy anywhere in the world. 250 years we just celebrated, and yet if you vote in California, you're lucky if a month after the election day your vote has actually been counted. We know that we have in certain jurisdictions illegal aliens who are casting ballots. We know that 80+% of the American people want you to show a voter ID in order to vote, and yet there are a lot of big blue states that make that impossible, will in fact criminalize the act of asking for an ID in order to vote. Why would you criminalize asking for an ID in order to vote unless you wanted to encourage and promote cheating? So this is an important priority for the administration, but more importantly, it's an important priority for the American people to save our elections. The way you save America is by bringing election integrity. It's something that matters. It's a shame that the Democrats aren't going to help us get this done, given that a majority of Democrat voters actually want us to have election integrity in this country. But we've got a good piece of legislation to support the troops, support the farmers, and get Save America Act passed. This, of course, is the first step, but it's an important step. We're going to take it together. We're going to be successful, and we're going to keep on working at it from there. Thank you. We'll take a few questions.
So you chair the anti-fraud task force. House Republicans, prior to reconciliation being released, they said they wanted to tackle fraud in this bill as a way to help pay for the bill. There's now no pay-fors in the bill, something that's very upsetting to a lot of Republicans. Do you think this bill should tackle fraud? Should there be pay-fors in it? And why? And if not, why not?
So we actually talked about this a fair amount in this conversation. So the Anti-Fraud Task Force is catching hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud across a number of programs, Medicare, Medicaid, a number of programs that are meant for our elderly, for people who are down on their luck, who have disabilities, and basically are being stolen from by fraudsters. So we're saving a lot of money, but we're also saving these critical programs for the next generation. That's a good thing. We're very, very proud of it. Ultimately, we decided this legislation, for a whole host of procedural reasons, was not the place in order to codify some of the things that we're doing in the Anti-Fraud Task Force. What we're doing with this legislation is getting Save America through and, of course, getting some critical support to our troops and to our farmers. We decided to do this because we thought this was the best vehicle to accomplish those three things, but we're certainly going to take up the Fraud Task Force, and we talked about actually working with some of our congressional colleagues to make that happen into the future, into the fall.
Mr. Vice President,
Yeah.
you mentioned that the administration's top priority right now is passing the Save America Act. Even if it were passed tomorrow, there's not enough time for it to be implemented before voting starts for the November midterm elections. That being said, will the administration support the results of the midterm elections come November, regardless of what they look like?
Well, look, of course, we're going to support the results of the midterm elections. We think we're going to win, but ultimately that's up to the American people. But we also think we have to do everything that we can to discourage cheating. Because you will hear Democrats sometimes say, and I love this line, I can't help but laugh at it, cheating isn't that frequent in American elections. Any frequency at all is a problem. A single ballot cast illegally in an American election is, in fact, the theft of the ballot from another American citizen, from an American citizen who deserves to be able to vote. So you're right. You know, the elections, in some ways, the process is already getting started for 2026, but you don't pass a piece of legislation because you think you're going to immediately benefit from it. You pass a piece of legislation because you think the American people are going to benefit from it over the long haul. We have to do it. Save America is not mainly about 2026, to your question. It's actually about saving America's elections well into the future.
Yeah. Last question. Tomorrow the president's going to give this big speech on the elections. A lot of Republicans here want him to focus on the 2026 midterms and not to relitigate his claims about the 2020 elections. Would you encourage him to steer clear of those unfounded claims that he is actually the true victor of the 2020 elections?
I love these questions, the unfounded claims. You're basically assuming an answer in the very question that you ask. Manu, what I'd say is, we can do a lot. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We're doing so many things. We got the one big beautiful bill passed that cut taxes on Social Security, cut taxes on tips, cut taxes on overtime, delivered thousands of additional dollars into the pockets of the average American family. We're very proud of that. It's one of the things that we talked about in there was we need to talk about it more. We need to tell the American people all the amazing benefits that are in those working families' tax cuts. We also have a lot of other things going on in the country. The president's going to talk about a number of things tomorrow night. I'm obviously not going to get ahead of his remarks, but we can talk about a number of the American people's problems. We can solve a number of the American people's problems. And that's exactly what we're going to work with our House colleagues and our Senate friends to do.
How are you going to get the Senate to pass Save America?
Bye, you all.
How are you going to get the Senate?
Take care.
How are you going to get the Senate to pass Save America?
Do you support the president's claims that the 2020 election was stolen?